We've already had our first snow and our first frost here in Denver, Colorado. So when I get started with zero waste habits I do in winter, it always seems to start with the garden. This year I didn't grow as many vegetables and things like that, but I'm definitely going to try and prepare all of these beds so that they are perfect for next year. I just tend to cut down everything that is dried and dead, but I like to leave the roots in the soil so that that can break down and just add some nutrients back to the soil that's been taken about by those tomato plants. I always tend to leave the flowers to go completely dry as well, because this is one of the best ways to collect seeds. Sometimes I collect them, sometimes I just do a mixture of both where I will spread them over the beds that are already there. And then it's really nice to get kind of surprise marigolds for next year in different places. I love marigolds, and not having to buy them and having the seeds to collect for next year is a really great way to save a bit of money and inevitably save a bit of packaging and things next year from having to buy the plants themselves. I've also been doing a lot of research into how to make your plants more resilient, and this is definitely a way to do that if you collect seeds from your previous plants, and especially the ones that have done well. Last year we built a little greenhouse for our vermicompost, our worms, to keep them warmer in the winter. I definitely need to add a little bit more insulation in this winter to keep them warm and just to make sure that they're happy. For now, I just added in some extra food that we had, and I used the compost tea that comes out of them to put on the beds just to give them a little enrichment before they all go to bed for the winter. Okay, we have quite a few zero waste chores on our list today. There's actually a Japanese knife shop in Rhino in Denver, and I unfortunately got a chip when I was cutting up one of those, I think it was like an acorn squash, in my knife, so I can't sharpen that myself. I can obviously sharpen the knife, but I can't fix that. And it's been something I've needed to do for a while. I use this knife every single day and I want to keep it forever, so I definitely need to keep up with the kind of admin on making sure that that doesn't rust or allow the chip to get worse, which means I would have to replace the knife, and we don't like to do that. So we're going to go do that, and we're just going to go and have one of my husband's knives sharpened as well. We both love cooking, which is why we have nice knives, and we really love to take care of our things. Someone in my previous video said that I really need to take care of my chopping boards, so we're going to give those a deep clean today, and then we're also going to get some wood oil and give those a good oiling. Today kind of feels like one of those general admin days where you just want to clean the whole house and just go through everything, make sure everything is being used, make sure there's no food in the cupboards that's being wasted. And also at this time every year I try on all my clothes. I probably won't do that, but I'm definitely going to put away my summer clothes and just try on my winter clothes to make sure that they all still fit me. Oh, and also my husband's mum wanted some tea for Christmas, so we're actually going to go check out some tea shops now, see if we can support local, find any loose leaf tea, and we might also pop into Nude Foods, which is a zero waste shop that was started in Boulder, but they've now opened one in Denver. See if we can get any loose leaf tea there. And also I need to get some more charcoal filters for our compost that just like sits on the counter. Whenever I'm heading to a new zero waste shop or a shop that I'm not quite sure what they have or if there are zero waste options, I always take just a random collection of jars. I also knew that we were going to try a new coffee shop while we were out, so I always bring my cup with me too. I like to try new coffee shops because I don't really go into the center of town very often, so when I do I like to support locals, especially because in Denver they have a bunch of local roasteries. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it to Nude Foods this week, but I will definitely go next week. We got a bunch of different teas for my husband's mum. I also got two for myself. I got a Earl Grey with blue flowers, which I thought sounded really interesting. I'm really in my Earl Grey era because I'm trying not to drink as much coffee anymore. And I also got a Mate Mocha tea, which I found very surprising. I tasted that when we were in the shop and it was so good. Then I decided to clean our boards. If your boards are looking a little dry like mine clearly were, or if they are holding on to any of the smells of the food that you'll chop on there like onions or things like that, then it's a really good idea to deodorize them first. I've seen this all over the internet, so I thought I would give it a go, and I just used baking soda and lemon juice. I scrubbed them really well and then rinsed them off fully. Then I just used a wood conditioner. I also got this at the Japanese knife shop, which is called Carbon in Rhino, and I gave them a really good condition. I just used an old piece of a tea towel to rub this in and just made sure it was clean. And then I boiled my wooden spoons. I've seen people do this and the amount of dirt that comes off them is pretty gross. So it was definitely time to do these as well. I also conditioned them a little bit. I'm not sure if it makes too much difference because these were pretty cheap wooden spoons, but I'm definitely here for making sure that we are making things last as long as possible and just taking care of our things. Next, I moved my starter to a bigger jar and I just added a ton of all-purpose flour and some warm water. We're going to be making a lot of sourdough next week, so I just wanted to get a head start, but I'll explain a little bit more why I decided to create a much bigger starter. So I'm making an extra big batch of my sourdough starter because I like to give and make bread for people at this time of year. I also want to lower the amount of time I'm spending turning my oven on and off, and if we're eating at least 2 loaves of sourdough a week, I feel like it's more efficient to just make 3 or 4 loaves in one go, and then I can put them all in the oven at the same time, and then I can put 2 in the freezer. I'm also doing an experimental sourdough video next week where we're trying lots of Christmas themed sourdoughs like Terry's chocolate orange, mulled wine, maybe even mince pie. I need a lot of starter for that as well. I'm also going to do a little reach out to see if anyone in Denver would like a sourdough starter. So I'm also feeding this extra just in case there's anyone around here that would like to have a starter for themselves. I recently gave my friend a little bit of my starter, so I'm very excited. I hope that he is able to take that and then start his sourdough journey. So yeah, that's why I do that. So now that the temperature is dropping and I can't really grow anything outside, the growing season in Colorado is quite short because obviously there's quite extreme weather here in terms of snow and freezing temperatures and things like that. I've mentioned this in a ton of videos before, and this is probably again similar to my spring video, but I really like to make my own microgreens and sprouts. They are so easy to grow. I just have like a kale trio of seeds, and then I also have a radish trio of seeds. These are just my favorite ones and I find them very easy to grow. I tend to make them in wintertime because it's harder to get fresh greens that are seasonal and they are more expensive, whereas growing greens at home or sprouts, micro sprouts, things like that is so much cheaper and so much more budget friendly. Also, I can never find sprouts or things like that in anything but plastic packaging, which kind of, I guess, makes sense at the shop. So yeah, it's super easy to make. All you do is add 2 tablespoons of each one or whatever you want to a mason jar, and then you soak it overnight or for about 8 to 12 hours. Then you'll dump out the water and you'll just kind of rinse them every day until they're ready, which takes about 7 days. You have to have some kind of mesh lid so that you can completely dump all the water out, and you don't need to waste that water. I just use it to water my plants. And then you just have an extra bit of greens, nutrients in the winter time, which makes it feel a little bit less miserable and cold if you live in an area like I used to in the UK, which was very grey. Sometimes it's nice just to have a bit of freshness and get you excited for the coming of spring. I definitely enjoy winter a lot more now that I live in Colorado, but the cold definitely does get to me, and having really nice teas and things like fresh microgreens makes a big difference. Thank you for joining me for part 1 of my zero waste habits that I do in the winter. I have a lot more that I'm going to be getting done this week, so make sure to subscribe for part 2. And we also have another food prep coming this week and lots of other festive content. I'm also finally starting my winter sweater that I'm going to be making myself, and it's the porcelain sweater, so I'm going to be making a whole video just on that as well. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.